Hello everyone, in today's video I want to go through this free resource I have, which is how to figure out if your property is cash flowing. And this is a super simple, easy peasy calculator that you can use and download for free. Just check out the free resources in the link below, and this comes as part of it. Anyway, so in today's video I want to go through this calculator, show you how to use it, even though it's really straightforward, but there's some tips and tricks and some things you might want to consider when using it. And you can learn this as little as 10 minutes, okay? In under 10 minutes, you'll know whether or not your rental property cash flows. So if you are a real estate investor looking to buy your first or next rental property portfolio, or you're an aspiring real estate investor in Canada, then you definitely want to check out today's video because we're going to go through this in under 10 minutes and figure out, does your property cash flow? Hey everyone, it's Tracy here. Just in case you don't know me, I'm a former engineer turned full-time real estate investor, but mainly I'm a mom of twins. Now, on my YouTube channel, I love talking about creating multiple streams of income, building wealth, so that we could all ultimately live our best life. So if that's something that you would love to learn more, then you definitely want to hit the subscribe button and that bell notification button to get the latest and greatest videos coming to you every single week. So let's get back with the video. Now, this real estate cash flow calculator is so easy to use. Now, everything in purple is what you need to put in. Now, before you're scared and just like, oh my God, there's a lot of purple in here, don't worry about it. I give you guidelines and rules of thumbs of what to put in. It's so straightforward. So let's get into it right now. So I'm going to assume that I'm looking at a semi-detached home for $450,000, and I'm going to use a conventional mortgage where I'm putting 20% down. So if I'm purchasing a property for $450,000, I'm going to put in a down payment of 20%, which is $90,000. So I'm going to put that in. So then I also got to figure out what interest rate I'm going to use for this rental property portfolio, So I'm going to put in 3% interest rate. Now you can project 3.5% or 4% if you're wanting to stay more conservative. But for today's video, I'm going to stay with 3%. I'm going to have an amortization of 30 years. So that's what I'm going to put in right now. Okay, so when you do that, then it asks you, what is your proposed closing date? So you can put in whatever the closing date is. So I'm going to put in November 2022. And then it asks you, do you have a second loan? So maybe you are borrowing equity from another property, but we're going to keep it super straightforward. I'm going to say I'm using cash as a down payment, so there is no second loan that I have to worry about. So I put 0. And then obviously my strategy for buying a rental property is I always look to buy a little bit of fixer-upper where it just needs cosmetic changes, like a little bit of paint, changing the flooring. So I usually budget in about $10,000 to $20,000 of renovations. Now this property, it looks like it's a pretty straightforward property, so I'm only putting $10,000, which will probably just be changing the flooring and updating the kitchen and some paint. And then one thing that you definitely want to put in here, and this is super important in this cash flow calculator, is the cash contingency. Now this is for, because obviously when you buy a rental property, there are going to be maintenance. Okay, there's guaranteed 100%. There's going to be wear and tear. So there's going to be a time where you have to change the furnace or change the roof, or a tenant actually vacates, which is actually more likely to happen every couple of years, depending on where your property is located. So I always put in 2 months of cash reserve. So if your mortgage payment is, say, $1,200 or $1,500, then you go 2 times that, and that would be the cash reserve you put in for this property. So right now, I'm just going to put a lump sum of cash contingency of $3,000. And the way I manage this, and this is a tip, this is outside the real estate cash flow calculator, is that if you start withdrawing that $3,000 over the upcoming 2 years, you always replenish that cash contingency so that you always have cash on the side to manage the expenses for that rental property. Okay, now diving into how much rent are you going to charge for this rental property? So I'm putting in this neighborhood that I'm looking at, I can charge $25.95, and this is pretty realistic. If you don't know where to find, what rental property or what the going rate is in that area, you could go to Rental Meter or check in Kijiji or check Facebook and figure out what is a good rental range for that property. So in this case, I know it's $25.95. And this is actually being very conservative. I'm not actually like looking at a high-end property, and I don't want to push the limits. So it's very, very realistic. Okay. Then what I put in is the next line, it says other equity payments. So if you were using a loan or if you're using a HELOC, then you would put in the equity payment. But for this video, I'm keeping super straightforward. I have no other equity payments. And then you have to also estimate what are your yearly taxes. Now, if you're looking at a property, you could go to MLS, and that property listing should show your annual taxes or projected annual taxes. So what you do is plop that in. So for my case, it's $3,500. So I just plop that in. Now it has notes and resources saying if you don't know, you could, well, check your MLS description, which should have it. Or you could also even calculate as a percentage of the purchase price. And this is different depending on the area. So sometimes 1%, 1.5%. Sometimes you're in Vancouver, super lucky, and the property taxes are really, really low. So it just depends on the area. Okay. And then for your yearly insurance, if you don't know what type of insurance you actually have to pay for this property, the rule of thumb is condos is about like $25 to $30 for a condo unit. Depending, obviously, it gets more expensive the bigger it is. For like a standard 2 bedrooms, about 25 to 30 bucks per condo. Or if you're looking at a home, I always plop in around 100 bucks a month. Okay, that's in Ottawa. That's the going rate for properties in Ottawa. So for this property, it's a semi-detached. So I'm going to put in $1,200 per year because that's like 100 bucks a month. And if you don't know, then you just contact your insurance provider. But I gave you rules of thumbs to plop that in. Okay, the next part is maintenance. Okay, do not put zero. Okay, you're going to have guaranteed some maintenance. So I always put in a percentage depending on the age of the home. Now, because this home is built in the 1980s, actually late 1980s, early 1990s, it's actually not that old. And because I am going to do some renos, the maintenance factor should be very, very low. So I'm putting in like 5%, which is probably the bare minimum. Now, if you have an older home, I have a rule of thumb. Okay, if you have an older home that's 50 plus years and you're not really doing any renos, then definitely you should put in a higher maintenance factor, which could be 10%. Okay, 10%. So right now I put in 5%, which means 5% of the monthly rent will go towards maintenance. Okay, so that's the rule of thumb I put in. Then property management. Now, if you're looking to self-manage the property, then you don't need to put in a percentage. Okay, then it's zero. But if you're looking to get a property manager in the near future, then you could plop that in just so that you can budget just in case you do have to get this property managed. Now, I'm a firm believer if you're new to real estate investing, the first couple of properties should be self-managed so that you learn the ropes as property manager. Now, eventually you can outsource that and get a property manager, but I always stress that in the first couple of properties, you can self-manage, especially if it's like in your city. So right now, if you're looking at a property manager, they typically run from 8 to 10%, or 8 to 12%, depending on the type of property. So you could contact a local company to get a more accurate property manager rate. But typically I just plop in 10%, which is a standard rate that a lot of property managers charge. Okay, then after that, you can put in the condo fees if you're buying a condo, which is the monthly fees. If you have other home owners association fees, or you're part of a pool of an area where they do snow removal, then you got to put in that fee. It could be like 50 bucks or 100 bucks a year. So you divide that by 12. So this is all monthly. Okay, piece. The other one is if you are looking to pay electricity, water, gas, heat, you got to put that all in. Now, typically for my rental properties, I am adamant that the tenant pays this because they're living in the home. Usually I go simple. If I have more than one unit in the property, it's separately metered. And so all the utilities are way cleaner, so I don't have to actually absorb the cost. So I put in zero for that. But you may not have that. Maybe you have a property where you share the water fee, so then you could split the costs up between the units, but you plop that in. So right now, there's also a line item for garbage removal. Like, I don't know if some places charge for garbage removal, they might. There's also snow removal. This is actually something that I do on one of my properties. So I do get a snow removal coming in because it's a big property, then I just get it removed. Now this property is very simple, so I'm putting 0 for snow removal. And then if you also have a lawn maintenance, so say you own a multifamily unit like a triplex or fourplex, you may want to get lawn cutting removal. Okay, it's easy. It's like 400 or 500 bucks per season. Then you just budget that in and put that as part of the monthly rent. Now this unit is super straightforward. I'm expecting my tenants to do lawn cutting. And so I'm going to put in 0 for that. So then after that, then it calculates it all for you and tells you, does it cash flow or not? So the final monthly cash flow for this property is projected to be $300 a month with a projected cash on cash return of 3%. So anyways, that's it. That's it. That's all it is. And under 10 minutes, you can determine if your property cash flows. So check out my link below. Get this real estate cash flow calculator. It's a simplified calculator that I use for my very simple properties. And it is free. Anyways, I hope you found this video super, super helpful. I wish this was a resource that was available to me way back when I started my real estate investing journey, which is why I created for all of you to help you out in your investing journey. Hey everyone, if you are looking for more real estate related videos in Canada, then you definitely want to check out this playlist out here. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.